Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
Boy, I got to tell you, today, Cassie Ventura testifies in the Diddy trial. Kim Kardashian testifies in Paris in the robbery trial. The Menendez brothers hearing is today. I mean, it is everywhere
going
today.
on.
We got to start with the Diddy trial because
star witness.
I have to tell you, Cassie Ventura testified, and if there's a word to describe the testimony the way prosecutors wanted it, I think that word is subtle. And that's not a word that generally convinces a jury. I'm actually stunned by what we've seen so far.
I will say that I think her testimony has been, up to this point, and she is, as we are speaking, still on the stand, but her testimony has been gripping.
I think it's gripping too.
And it has been, you're right, subtle. There's been emotion, certainly, but it has not been like attacking Diddy.
Well, and look,
she's just telling
the story. This case is about two things: proving force or coercion, and that's what prosecutors need to do, at least on two of the charges, to convict him. So I think this, Charles, is really interesting. This is just one exchange,
right?
But I think it's, you know, it encapsulates how she felt about these Freakoffs, which has become a centerpiece of the case.
Which she said today on the stand that she agreed to do it. She was sort of into it at first, and then that changed when it was frequent, too frequent for her liking, and that's when things changed. But there's a lot of talk about use of drugs before the Freakoffs, and she
remember the U.S. attorney said that he plied these unwilling participants, these women, with drugs, which is part of the force and coercion.
Right, and she said on the stand that she took Molly, ecstasy, cocaine. She never slept during these Freakoffs, which
would last 10, 12 hours.
10 to 12 hours. There's one date that they mentioned on stand that lasted 4 days.
Yeah. So let's get into this. So this is an exchange about the Freakoffs. And again, what the prosecutors need to prove here is force or coercion. And this is what, at least for me, it really struck me.
Okay.
This is a prosecutor. Do you recall all the Freakoffs? Cassie says that would be impossible. Prosecutor, did you want it to stop? Cassie, yes, I was humiliated. I don't have those words then.
I didn't have those words then.
I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And she begins to sob. The prosecutor, did you tell him you didn't want to? She answers, yes. Cassie says, I brought it up gently. I didn't want him to just do it with someone else.
The Freakoff.
The prosecutor, were you able to express your concerns to him? The defense objects, they rephrase it, and the prosecutor says, why would you talk to him gently? And she says, I didn't want to make him angry.
Right. Now, go ahead. I'll let you make your point because I know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that to convict somebody of this, you have to show, I didn't want it. He forced me. He coerced me. And, you know, she's being, I think, honest here.
Yeah.
And she's saying, look, I didn't want to, I did it gently because I didn't want him to do it with another woman. I guess she was his girlfriend at the time. I didn't want to make him mad, but she's essentially saying, I was kind of backing off, giving him a hardline no.
Right. But the last part where she says, I didn't want him to be angry. Remember, and I know what you're going to say, that, look, the prosecutors need to connect these dots, but they've already heard testimony from the male dancer who said that he was present when Diddy slapped her. At the very least, he knew that Diddy had slapped her and that he was uncomfortable after that incident doing any more Freakoffs with them. So, and then there's the video, which she said...
The video of the Freakoffs?
The hotel beating video, where this was after a Freakoff, even though the defense says the fight between them was not about the Freakoff or about her leaving the Freakoff, but still, she was at a freak-off, and when she says, I didn't want him to be angry, and the jury is also seeing that, to me, that plays like force. Well, I know what you're saying.
I want to bring Derek in for a second, because Derek, when you say I didn't want to make him angry, that's kind of an anticipatory statement. It's not that he got angry, so I had to do it. It's in my head, did not want to make him angry, so I decided to do it. That, in some ways, I'm not saying it's right at all, but legally, in my head, that may fall short of proving force or coercion.
It certainly is a more difficult case than overt coercion. Holding someone at gunpoint and making them do something is certainly a more obvious example of coercion. But this sort of softer kind, where she was worried about his anger, she was worried about potential blackmail. She testified that there were other videos that she was worried he might use to blackmail her. These are also forms of coercion that can be used to prove that case.
That's a big deal. That if he did, and the prosecutor said this in opening statements, that they want to show that he told her that if you don't keep doing them, I'm going to release these videos of the Freakoffs. That's coercion. Right. And if that gets proved, I think his goose is cooked.
How do you see this as all that different of the circumstances when Harvey Weinstein was accused of rape, when women were in rooms and felt like they couldn't leave, even though he wasn't necessarily holding them down? Those are forms of withdrawing consent and an inability to feel like you can get out of a situation.
Listen, the jury could say this is clearly force and coercion. They could say that. I know they could. All I'm saying is I thought it was going to be more direct than it was. I mean, this has been a buildup for a year now. And the way the prosecutor, when he filed the case, the U.S. attorney, when he held that press conference, it felt more direct, less subtle.
That there's going to be more...
Less subtle. And again, the jury may well say, hey, that's enough for us.
We should also say that she is still continuing to testify. We don't know what else is going to come up. But I also just got to say, like, the stories that, and this is the part where you said that it seems subtle, it's like she was sort of telling the story of how their relationship worked, things that they did, people that they interacted with. It is, just to hear her telling it is fascinating. As a juror, I got to imagine they are all on the edges of their seats.
Suge Knight came up.
Suge Knight came up.
Suge Knight came up in the middle of this.
Right. Cassie told a story about while they were in the middle of a freak-off, a security guard came in and said, Suge Knight is down the street at a diner, and that Sean jumped up, according to Cassie, and went to leave, and she started crying and said, please don't do anything stupid. She describes another night when she was told, when they're walking into a club, to hold a gun, and she was nervous about it because they'd been doing mushrooms and they were high, and she didn't want to. I mean, it is.
I want to say one other thing.
A gripping tale.
It's totally gripping,
start to finish.
I want to say one other thing. There are two of the three main charges where you need to show force or coercion. I just don't know how the jury is going to go on that. The third, but I will say, to me, the most damning thing is if the jury believes Diddy said to her, if you don't continue doing it, I'm going to release these freak-off videos. To me, that's just flat-out coercion, extortion. And so that aside, the one count of transporting a sex worker across state lines for money, that third count doesn't require prosecutors to show force or coercion.
Right.
That's the count.
That's just a transaction.
He's going to have a problem with that count,
right,
given what we've already seen. So to be continued.
Hi, I'm Alyssa from Savannah, Georgia. Obviously, we're still in the midst of trial, but if it comes out that all the things Diddy's been accused of are true, I believe he deserves every day of prison that he gets and then some. I mean, Cassie opened the door for all potential victims of this man to feel as though they could come forward and speak about their horrific experiences. And even if she did agree to participate in the freak-offs at the beginning, the second she decided she was no longer willing to participate is the moment that things should have stopped. And to threaten and follow through with acts of violence and blackmail to try to force someone to do something that they no longer want to do is the definition of being a predator in my eyes. But all in all, I'm just hoping for peace for all the victims involved.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be Wow.
Keep in mind, I mean, she is the star witness, but this is just the first.
Oh, there'll be 6 weeks of testimony here.
Right.
Okay, we're going to go to Paris.
Yes. When we come back, Kim Kardashian taking the stand in the armed robbery trial, and it was a spectacle from the second she arrived outside the courthouse. As for what happened inside, we're going to be joined by her attorney, who will give us the blow-by-blow of what Kim said and what the reaction was in the court. Kim Kardashian took the stand today. What a day
What a
we are
day.
having. But Kim Kardashian took the stand today as expected in the trial of the 10 people who are accused of the armed robbery that she went through in Paris. Now, we all know the story. We've heard the details. But to know that she's on the stand and reliving all of this, this is her walking into court. Kris Jenner was there, Corey Gamble, and a few other people accompanying her into the courtroom. One thing that was interesting as she walked in, you can't ignore the fact that she is wearing a lot of jewels.
She's dripping in jewelry.
And that is definitely relevant to what she went through, because you know after the robbery she felt uncomfortable wearing jewelry in public.
She didn't wear any for a time.
So it seemed like a statement.
But boy, she went through this in graphic detail, talking about the terror of that night.
Yeah, she laid out part of it. She said, I absolutely thought I was going to die. I kept telling them I have babies and I need to get home to my babies. He grabs my legs and pulls me. I'm naked and my everything is exposed. I was sure that I was going to be raped. And she went on through the being held at gunpoint and begging for her life.
So obviously this was not a televised trial in France. We are fortunate to have Kim's lawyer, who accompanied her to France for the testimony, Michael Rhodes, a big-time lawyer in Hollywood, and he is joining us right now. Michael, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
We're thrilled you're here, actually. Look, I got to start with optics. Kim was wearing jewelry that was impossible to ignore, and this case was about jewelry. So am I wrong to think this was a statement? And if I'm right, what's the statement?
She was being her authentic self. So if that's a statement, you know, I'll let you draw that conclusion. But, you know, as somebody who tries cases for a living, or did until very recently, I recently retired from my law firm, I think it's just important to be yourself, be authentic to what you are. And I think she pulled that off today.
The statement, as it read to us, and we're just wondering how people in the courtroom took it, it was basically her saying, I'm not going to let you, the people who did this to me, make me change my life, even though she did for a while, but she wanted to make it clear that I'm still going to be who I am in this city where this horrible thing happened to me.
Yeah, I think that's along the right lines. I will say, though, that this event was a fundamental paradigm shift in her life, in the way she lived her life, from everything about the security apparatus, the loss of freedom, the sense of vulnerability, the security bubble that she lives in currently. So I would emphasize the fact that this was a very pivotal moment in her life, and it did change the way she lives.
And obviously, so terrifying. Can you give us the anticipation of testifying from her? You know, was she nervous? Was she looking forward to doing this? What was her state of mind as she walked those steps into the courtroom?
It was a process for her to come to the conclusion that she should absolutely come to Paris. She should testify live. The French authorities asked her to, and she decided on her own to do that. I think she felt that it would be a way of starting the process of closure of this event and what it meant to her in her life. As you know, she's very devoted to justice in sort of the general sense of the term, whether it be advocating for prisoners who have reformed themselves, advocating for people that are wrongfully convicted, trying to improve the justice system, trying to become a lawyer. So I think she was very comfortable in the end, but it was a process for her to get to the point where she could come to this point, testify live. It's a historic court, and you're in really close proximity with all of the defendants and their lawyers. It's not like an American court where you kind of have two sides of the house, so to speak. there's a dais at one end and the three judges and the jury sits up there. But where you testify in the middle of this, you're surrounded by everybody. So you feel their physical presence around you. So in that sense, I think it's even more heroic than it may seem to your watchers who may not understand how intimate of setting this really is and how close you are to the defense teams, both the lawyers and the defendants.
To that point, Michael, we talk a lot when we're talking about celebrity trials and the impact that celebrity has on people just in the gallery and certainly on the jury. Was there, from your vantage point, a visible reaction from people either in the jury or the gallery to Kim Kardashian, one of the biggest celebrities in the world, most recognized, and her walking in? I would imagine there was some reaction from people in the courtroom.
I don't think there was the kind of drama you're describing in the courthouse itself or when she was testifying. It was more the sense of excitement. There were people everywhere around trying to get a look at her. And I think it kind of recognized what this event meant for her and for Paris. I have to give Paris credit. They really put their best foot forward. We were incredibly appreciative of our relationships with the security officers in the court and the accommodations they gave us.
I don't know a lot about French law. Was she cross-examined by defense lawyers?
Under the French system, it's more of an inquisitorial system. So you have what's called the president. Think of it like the presiding judge. He sits in the middle, and then there are two wing judges, and then there's a jury of 6. In this case, it's 4 men, 2 women, 3 on each side. And then there's sort of bullpen area in the middle, Harvey, you'd think of as the well. There are defense lawyers and the 10 defendants sort of scattered around the lectern where you're going to testify from. So in their system, the presiding judge examines her first, fairly thoroughly. The wing judges can ask questions. There's also a prosecutor who sits in the courtroom, in this case, a woman. She could ask questions. And then there are what are called civil parties. These are people, think of them as like the victims. And it's really, in this case, 3 people. The concierge who was bound at gunpoint, Simone, her assistant, who was also there, kind of witnessed the events, and then Kim. And they have lawyers, and so their lawyers question next, and then all of the 10 defendants, through their lawyers, can then do what you would think of as cross-examination, but it's really very different. A lot of it is speeches, very long statements that they say into the record, presumably for the gallery or the other audience at large. And then they sort of ask a question, like, do you agree? Do you have anything to say to that? And it's much less of cross-examination the way we would think of it.
One other thing. Kim is famous now for taking up causes of inmates she believes should be freed from prison. And there are some people who thought maybe she was going to Paris and to testify to show mercy for these people because that's what she's done in the United States. That's not my understanding.
Let me interrupt you. Great question. But 2 of the defendants, and essentially a third through counsel, all but apologized to her in court. One man struggles to speak. I mean, he may have had a medical issue, and he wrote out a handwritten apology, which was read to her in court. She was asked directly about her willingness to accept their apology as part of a redemptive act for them, I suspect. And she did do that. She was very graceful about that and said, I appreciate what you're saying to me. You acknowledge what happened to me. And she talked about her work in the regard that you mentioned and said this is a balance between trying to be empathetic for people that are imprisoned or convicted and who seek redemption, and also advocating for victims of crime and victims of violent crime as she was.
Really fascinating to see how it all works over there. So what is the next step, Michael? She's done, this is just a single day of testimony. And how much longer do they think the trial will go?
So my understanding is, yeah, she's done. The next phase will be the testimony of the defendants themselves over the next perhaps 3 days. And then starting next week, there'll be sort of lawyer arguments, and there's quite a lot of that apparently. And then my understanding is there'll be a decision or a verdict reached something along the lines of May 23.
This is fascinating. We are so grateful, Michael, that you came on to download us, because that it's very different from the American system, but it was just so interesting to hear this. So thank you.
My pleasure. Good luck, guys.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Wow, that is, I was riveted by that.
Yeah, I mean, just to understand how it worked, and the part that she was actually gracious in accepting their apology. And I'm not saying this to say that she didn't really believe that, and I don't think she would have said it if she didn't. But it's almost like they played on
that, on what she did,
what she's been doing.
They were baiting her to say, "Forgive me."
And maybe it will lead to them having shorter sentences.
We don't know.
But
fascinating.
That's not going to be up to her.
Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right. When we come back, Kim's kid sister, Kylie Jenner, hanging with her man in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks' big win. They were just two of the famous faces. I honestly, I think the Knicks are challenging the Lakers now when it comes to celebs sitting courtside.
They may be passing them.
Yeah.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall. Yeah, right.
It's TMZ.
Great night to be a New York Knick and a New York Knick fan, like Timothy Chalamet. And I assume Kylie Jenner, by significant other, must now be a Knick fan as well. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the way it works.
I don't know. I don't know.
You really want to convince your man that you're there, that you're ride or die, you're with him. You got to root for his team. They were sitting courtside last night.
She's been at Laker games too, dude.
Yeah, and he's been at Laker games. And he's a sports fan, but he's a New York Knicks fan.
He's a big New York Knicks fan.
Yes, New York native. So they were sitting courtside, very happy, of course, because the Knicks ended up winning. I think this is the first time I've seen Kylie with him at Madison Square Garden. I don't know that for it's
We are burying the lead.
What?
The couple that kind of rolled out their relationship there.
Oh yeah, them too. Sorry, I was just thinking about the Knicks winning. I was just so happy about it. Yes, Cardi B. Look, we've suspected this for a few months now. We've seen them go out on dates, but she and Stephon Diggs, the NFL star, were also sitting there courtside, very much a couple.
Looking in
All
love,
booed up.
looking happy. Offside is somewhere punching the air because he has officially lost Cardi. Her and Stephon look so good together. She's smiling. She's out and about. It's good to see her out like that. Honestly, if I were at the Knicks game, I don't know about how much of the game I would have been paying attention to, because that celebrity row was packed between Kylie, between Timothy, between Cardi, Stephon. You had
Spike
Jordan
was there.
Wood, Spike Lee.
John
It
Leguizamo.
was crazy. Like they
like
were.
a
So
old
many
librarian
celebrities
look.
there.
Susie Essman from Curb, Tina Fey. Gang's all there.
I mean, there's
Tracy did not throw up. Did not throw up at the game.
All these celebrities actually mega basketball fans, or is this just an event that other celebrities are going to be popping out, showing up, so that they have to show up too?
Most of the people they showed were they're at Knicks games typically. I don't know how much I've seen Tina Fey there. Look, I'm sure there's some celebrities who are going because it's the playoffs.
It's exciting.
And it was a big game.
By the way,
it's exciting.
I'm kind of done with the shame of, if you're not a diehard fan, you shouldn't be going to the playoffs. Playoffs are different. And
playoffs are different.
It's a thing. It is a
Kendall
thing.
Jenner. Kendall was wearing gear. She had merch on.
You know why Kendall was there?
She's looking for a
No,
boyfriend.
no, God, no. Kendall, I think, was there because Timothy wanted to focus on the game, and at least Kendall
she was
and
a
Kylie
distraction
could
for
talk.
Kylie?
Right.
Kendall, please come to the game. I'll get you a ticket. You just got to talk to your sister.
Well, no, there was somebody that I could have talked to Kylie. Jordan Woods was there. Jordan Woods' boyfriend is called
that's
Anthony
right.
Towns.
Carl
And
Anthony
after the
Towns.
game, her
And they
Kylie,
repaired their relationship, right?
They're friends, yeah. After the win, Kylie and Jordan met up on the court. They were jumping up and down, celebrating together. Timothy was right behind. So this was
Look at the
definitely
Knicks
a fun
bringing
friend
people
night.
together. Oh, it's just warm fuzzy.
Wait. You're telling me Kylie and Jordan were on the court celebrating?
After the
Yes, after the game.
game.
Yeah, after the game, they were embracing each other, jumping up and down, screaming, having a great time, it looked like. And they were only 6 seats apart
Hey,
on
go,
the
New
front
York,
row.
go, New York, go. I can't hear you.
Okay. But back to my point.
Kyle is shaking his head.
Honestly,
Kyle, the Celtics fan, is
everybody shames somebody. Oh, you're not really a fan. You're going to the playoffs. The playoffs are different. And if somebody wants to
You know what? It's
and
fine.
enjoy
It's
it,
fine. Everybody
fine.
get on board. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Hey guys, my name's Joy Daly from New York City, and the couples was outside courtside for that New York game. Now, Kylie and Timothy, they looked very cute together, but I could not take my eyes off of Cardi B and Stephon Diggs when I tell you that is one fine couple. I couldn't stop looking at them. I am 100% Team Stephon Diggs, Cardi B. I
Wow.
want more of them.
All right.
Stephon Diggs,
Coronation
Cardi.
is complete.
I like that. Stephon Diggs, Cardi B. I like
You
that.
guys, Devin wanted me to point out that the Kardashian sisters are kind of taking a side because Tristan Thompson is also in the playoffs, and they're wearing so much Knicks gear and really showing up for the Knicks, but haven't really done anything for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Wow. Why we got to shame? Why is Cleveland catching
Why did
strays?
they get shaded?
That's-
Okay, we got to take a break.
All right. When we come back, one of the most interesting counts that Diddy is facing involves something called the Mann Act. His team has said this is a racist law from the early 1900s, and they're going to go after it. They're going to put the system on trial. Is that fair? Is that accurate? Is that the right thing to do? We're going to get into it with DL Hughley when we come back. Welcome back to TMZ Live. We have been saying one of the more difficult counts for Diddy's defense to explain away is going to be the one that's based on something called the Mann Act, and that is makes it illegal to transport someone across state lines.
A sex worker for
It could be anyone.
It could be anyone where they're making money for the purpose of prostitution. And
Well, there's a prostitution
there are
charge,
2
and then
charges
there's-
on this. So it's essentially
Right.
hiring a sex worker or somebody to come across state lines. You pay them money to engage in what amounts to prostitution,
Right.
which is sex for money. And for that charge, you don't have to show coercion. You don't have to show force. And in my head, that's going to be the one that he's most vulnerable to.
Right, and we know that the defense has said that this Mann Act is racist. It is a law that came into being in 1910 and was the reason for it was certainly connected to the end of slavery. But Mark Agnifilo, the lead attorney for Diddy, spoke to us about this for one of our Downfall of Diddy documentaries. Here's how he describes it.
Let's switch our focus to the government. In my opinion, I'm just going to say it the way it is. No friend historically of the successful black man, okay? None. And they start making this case, in my opinion, as a takedown of a successful black man. We have reduced him, not everyone, but a large amount of our society, to being a monster. That should make us shake in our boots.
So they're going to present that, and they really did raise that in opening statements in somewhat oblique way, but they clearly are going to try to message that to the jury.
Will it be effective?
Is it racist?
Is the Mann Act racist? Joining us now to talk about it, a good friend, DL Hughley. DL, welcome back.
Hey, man, how you?
Have you been able to catch up on any of the testimony that's going on?
Like anything from the 1900s, there are a lot of things that are racist, including, the ice cream truck theme song, including the Star Spangled Banner. So that is true. It was just taking somebody across state lines for the purposes of sex is the anniversary too. So I don't know.
Right.
I think that Puffy's biggest problem isn't, and I think that, like all prosecutors, they try to get the case that's going to yield them the best results. His biggest problem isn't that society thinks he's a monster, is that they saw that video. So we could put the legal system on trial, which there's no doubt I'm sure they're going to have some level of purchase for that. That's going to score to some people to some degree. But putting the law on trial doesn't negate what happened. I mean, it doesn't negate what everybody else saw. I remember I was in Chicago when that video aired, and I remember there was a decidedly different tone once people saw that video. So I think that his problem, I mean, it's funny because I ain't trusted Puffy since he came up with Pizza Rock. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Anybody that come with pizzas and vodka is up to something to me. But I think that his problem is that so many people tell so many stories. And I think all these people who are coming and they're witnesses now, if you watched all that happen and you didn't say anything, you weren't a witness, you were an accomplice. But there are so many people who are going to
That's so funny. That's so funny you're saying
figures.
this, because I have been talking to people in the legal community. There are some celebrities, it turns out, that the prosecutors have suggested they want to call. It's unclear to me whether they're going to end up going to court, and I'm not sure exactly why, but they are scrambling right now. So it's going to be interesting
Thank
to
God
see.
I never went to one of those parties. I never went to one of those parties. But I think that it's so many people with so many accounts, and they're monstrous. They're so even if you just saw the Cassie video, which was horrifying, I think he has so many people who put, because those parties were very popular. He has so many people. To me, I just don't understand drugging people for sex. Like, I remember, remember we used to lie to get sex? Like, Ruth ain't got a damn thing on I love you. So I never understood that part. But it was, even when you couldn't go anywhere at certain times of year without people talking about puppy pies.
So you're saying it's wrong to play the race card in this case?
I think ultimately that law, there's no disputing the fact that the law was meant like vagrancy laws, like, you can deputize citizens, all those things came. But I think his problem isn't the law. It's obviously it's that so many people are going to put names and faces and acts to the things that he's done. They're going to fill in a lot of blanks, and it ain't going to be a pretty thing. So the Mann Act, I think that won't be even Cassie today that's a tough thing to get a pregnant woman with no sex, with not a lot of sexual experiences, tell stories. That's tough to beat.
Well, to that point, there's going to be a point in the trial, DL, when Diddy's attorneys get up there and say this about the Mann Act, to point out that it was used to convict Chuck Berry. It was used to convict boxer Jack Johnson. And now they're going after Diddy. Is there something to this? And this Diddy's trial is not the first time we've heard this, where that the man, the government, is always trying to take down a successful, rich, celebrity black man. And
two things can be true. Like, two things can be true. There's no disputing the Mann Act, but neither one of those cases, it was generally that they were dealing with white women, which was the problem then. It wasn't it wasn't a plethora of people. It wasn't dozens of sex workers saying a thing. So I think, to me, yes. But anytime you have a defense attorney, he's going to go after the fruit that he thinks will resonate. I mean, I think whether it's putting police on trial, the system on trial, the law on trial, and I think that there are going to be some people who are probably inclined to listen to that to some degree. It's just so many people saying that. It's going to be so many people.
I'm really curious on your take on this jury. So it's 8 men, 4 women. Half the men are people of color. All the women are people of color. Does it matter? I mean, people say, women are harder on women. And it's like, does that mean anything to you in terms of, foretelling what's going to happen here?
To me, I know that I'm more inclined to relate to somebody who looks like me and has some of my same experiences. But the truth of the matter is, black people send black people to jail all the time. And most black people who are in jail were sent by black jury. So I think the fact that I know they're going to be able to be impartial, I know they're going to be able to render a verdict. And I know that it depends on how good I think the lawyer, both the lawyer and the prosecutor pick the people who, obviously during the voir dire process, they're going to see who relates. But I think I think that video changed a lot. It changed a lot for him. It changed a lot of people's mind. And I think no matter what we say, I think probably, I think the Mann Act aspect of it is not the most damning part of it.
Yeah. All right. Okay, DL.
But I wouldn't want to be him. Goodness gracious, it's a bad day to be Puffy.
Yeah,
no kidding.
There's been a lot of those lately.
Man, let me tell you something.
All right, DL. Good talking to you,
All right,
man.
baby.
We'll see you
All right,
next
man.
time.
Take care.
All right.
All right,
See ya.
bye-bye.
Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right, when we come back, new testimony just in from Cassie, still on the stand, and she is getting into the details of a particular sexual act that happened during the Freakoffs and whether or not she wanted it to happen. This is interesting. Well, Cassie Ventura is still on the stand testifying, and some of what she got into here, we will give you a warning. It is a very vivid description of something that happened during at least one of the Freakoffs.
And this came up in opening statements, and this has to do, and again, if you're going to be offended by this, if you're squeamish, you don't want to hear this. But this, the prosecutors brought this up, that the sex worker, they said, urinated on Cassie during these Freakoffs. What Cassie testified is it was more than sex worker, it was Diddy.
Diddy as well.
In addition.
Right. The prosecutor says, did you want to be urinated on?
I didn't want anyone to urinate on me, she says. And then how often did it happen? She says, often enough.
And she says it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. No one could think I wanted it. Why were you choking? It was too much urine in my mouth. Who else urinated on you? Sean. Did you want him to urinate on you? I didn't want anyone to urinate on me.
Then it gets interesting. The prosecutor says, why didn't you say no? Presumably before that, she had said she never said it. And she says, it was obvious I didn't want to be on the ground being urinated on by two men.
I think that's the key testimony here. We talked about yesterday that the prosecutors teased this idea of urination being so far outside of the norm that no one would consent to it that was rational or a reasonable person. That's what she's saying on the stand. Of course I didn't want to be urinated on by two men, so don't say this was part of our consensual relationship.
What the defense, I think, is going to do, and I'm just guessing here, is they are going to say that there is a community where stuff like this happens.
Yes.
And so it's not something that automatically is forced, and they're going to probably call somebody to the stand to address it. So if they do it, and I have no idea if they are, but if they do, then the question is she tolerating it? Because it's gross.
Correct.
I get it. I understand it.
No, look, and honestly, I'm totally not here to yuck anybody's yum. What you're into, you're into.
Right.
It's consensual, great. But I'm just saying that I believe that for most of the jury, that is a very vivid.
It's vivid, but Charles,
description that will.
Charles, it's vivid, but they are going to. I've seen juries. Now, I don't know whether this jury is going to do it, but they are ultimately going to look at force and coercion. And now the question is, she's saying, in my head, yes, of course I was, but then some juror says, did he ever direct her, order her, force her? Did she ever say that? You know that discussion is going to go on. I don't know how they're going to come out, but they're going to have that discussion.
Hi, my name is Andrew Washington, and I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York. I'm talking to you about Diddy and Cassie. What's going on is absolutely absurd to see what's going on. People see the celebrity side of things, but they don't see the part of Cassie. She's being humiliated and has to tell the whole world about her humiliation. So no, at court, she might not have come out and said, yes, I said stop. But just think about how hard it is for her to come say, yes, I had these men urinating on me. That's not something that everybody can do. At one time, I looked up to Diddy.
You are 100% right. The only question, the only thing I'm raising is the legal point of proving the elements of the crime.
I agree.
I don't know how they're going to come out.
I agree with you that that's not there. I just wonder how sophisticated the jurors are.
No idea.
They're gonna, that nuance will be something that sits with them.
Is it a nuance or not? I don't know how they're going to view it. Yeah. It's going to be interesting when the judge gives instructions.
Yeah.
Okay, taking a break.
When we come back, the jailhouse attack, the prison attack on Tory Lanez. We now know the details of how many times he was stabbed and where on his body. He is in really, really bad shape. Well, we broke the story early yesterday morning that Tory Lanez was attacked around 7:20 a.m. in the California State Prison where he is serving 10 years for the Megan Thee Stallion shooting. We knew that he'd been rushed to a hospital, but it was sketchy for most of the day as to what exactly his status was, what condition was he in. Well, we got the details late yesterday. He was stabbed at least 14 times. 7 wounds to his back, 4 to his torso, 2 to the back of his head, and 1 to the left side of his face.
Oh my God, this is worse.
Both of his lungs collapsed, and he was placed on a breathing apparatus. Late yesterday, he was breathing on his own, so that is clearly an upgrade.
That is
but
way more than I thought.
It tells you exactly how violent this was, and whoever, the inmate who's responsible for this, you'd have to assume they were attempting to kill him. They wanted to kill him.
This is one of those but for the grace of God things.
Right.
Hello, this is Malik Taylor from Memphis, Tennessee, and I feel as though with them attacking Tory Lanez and stabbing him 14 times, it goes to show you they was trying to take this man out. He has made some enemies, and they wanted to take him out, and I feel as though this is the attack to try to take him out. If it's not the warning, it's the thing to show him within these next 10 years, never feel comfortable. And I feel, unfortunately, the next time you talk about the situation, it may be a more deadlier headline attached to it.
It can't be much more deadlier because this was, like you said, I mean, clearly tried to kill him.
Yeah.
What else do you guys want to talk about?
Hi, my name is Brianna Ulmer from Winchester, Virginia. I'm talking about Diddy. I just can't imagine being Cassie and going into that courtroom and facing the man that abused and manipulated you for years and having to relive those stories that she's probably been trying to heal from. I just don't like how people are questioning why she stayed for so long when they don't understand how it feels to be a young lady in the industry like that and being manipulated by a powerful mogul like Diddy. I just hope when this case is over that she's able to find peace and close this chapter in her life and have a healthy pregnancy.
It's got to be so difficult. I mean, just recounting.
And remember, she's going through all this very pregnant.
Right.
Yeah.
One more.
Hey, this is Whitney from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I want to talk about Kim. I just can't really imagine going through the whole ordeal that she did because obviously she's human. But a couple things. Did she really have to wear all of those diamonds? And why did it take so many years for this to happen? And also the fact that they put the trailer out on the same exact day of her legal drama that she's in court is certainly a PR stunt. So we know that they are all about that. And I mean, I am happy that she moved on and she's doing the project, but who knows, maybe this whole legal drama that she has going on will help her and be handy in court.
Well, thank you for the layup.
Yeah. Thanks for the transition. We call that a segue and a beautifully done one. When we come back, that trailer that she mentioned, you will see it. All's fair. This is Kim's starring role as an attorney. How'd she do? You will see when we come back. Well, we have been hearing all about and seeing Kim Kardashian film All's Fair, the Ryan Murphy series where she is playing the lead attorney in a all-female firm.
Or as Mark Aragos would call it.
No, no, no. They dropped the trailer today. Obviously, I don't think by accident, because she was testifying in Paris today, and they knew that it would get a lot more attention. Here is just a little bit of it.
Deep breath. Tell us your story.
You know what a girl's best friend is? Not diamonds. Her lawyers.
What do you ladies think you could possibly hit me with that I haven't seen before?
You're right. Everything we're going to show you today, you should be intimately familiar with.
Great cast, incredible.
Yeah,
see,
no, it's a great.
Judith Light in there, Naomi Watts.
It's a great cast.
All right, we got to go.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.